lots of factories and so on, lots of places that can grow and employ more people, but we need to push people to actually move there. 3 points. First of all, fairness, because I think we should actually think about where this money comes from. I think we should actually think about what makes our benefits legitimate, and why they're not just to subsidise the total conception of the good life, because a lot of people paying them aren't living their total good life. Second of all, why it is a rational choice for them to move to different areas, that particular blocks people have to move in this overcomes. And third of all, why this does actually grow jobs. First of all, some rebuttals. Okay, so this idea that actually what we should be doing is incentivising industries to train these people. And we agree, but a lot of our cases are going to rest on the fact that all these things like training and employment are easier in areas which have a lot of companies already, have a lot of factories already, and have them all close together. So if the government says to BAE, I'm going to give you a big grant to train a bunch of people to work on your building airplanes and so on, that money's going to go a lot further if you say we're going to get 1,000 people to move over next to where your factories are right now and you can train them in the factories, rather than wanting to build a factory in Darlington, right? We can actually have that money more directly targeted on using the infrastructure they have to grow in training, rather than just because for some reason we have some sort of attachment to particular areas, rather than caring about what the state should really care about, which is people, why we should arbitrarily put these have to start from scratch in those areas. Okay, because these are just banks and computer science jobs, because apparently the only people that are employing these days are quaternary industries where you need a degree or you need to be middle class, right? We just don't think that's true, right? We think there are places where you either need a short amount of training in order to do it, like working in Sheffield Steel and so on, and where you just add more people, they can actually expand and grow those industries, and people can work there or be trained there, no thank you, much more easily. Okay, because furthermore, in terms of integration of people, the city bankers are all going to reject you and so on. First of all, yeah, the Banlieue of Paris are a bad idea. That's why you should integrate them properly, like we do in London, where you don't just have all students. No, thank you. But actually, once you actually see these people and see the conditions that some of them are in, there's more political capital to actually help them. Okay, this idea of crime, right? There's at the point at which they're unemployed, they're more likely to commit crimes because they need the money. Also, they don't only. It's not just they just steal from rich people. Okay, so they're stealing from people in their particular areas anyway. If we help employment, we help lower crime, right? And actually, we think it's easier to manage crime in a place like London, where the police actually do something about it, okay? Then they said, what if the jobs aren't right for your skills base, okay? I don't think what they showed us about a place like Darlington, that it provides a type of job that can never be available anywhere else in the country. We're not saying we should turn everyone into a city banker, but what we're saying is if your calling in life is to work in a steel factory, we'd rather you worked in the area where there are currently lots of steel factories and where it's growing, and where they're next to each other and multiplying lots of money, right? Rather than just forcing you to have one in your own particular area. No, thank you. Okay, so let's talk about fairness. Because actually, who pays benefits? First of all, we do it because it's a last resort, okay? We don't just do it because we have this intrinsic belief in letting people realise good life no matter what that good life is, right? If I make 30k a year, but my conception of good life is to set my paychecks on fire, I don't then expect benefits in return for that, okay? So obviously that's an extreme, but there's still a principle here that there's an expectation that if you have a choice, you take it because benefits are a last resort. Because they said certain things like how important local associations are, how important it is to live near your family, and all those kind of things. But people who are currently in jobs and currently paying taxes don't get to live near their family all the time. They often have to move abroad and move to other areas, right? Or have to work in places they don't like, or sometimes they have to work in industries they don't like. These things are overcomable, right? With things like transport, we're happy to give you a transport grant to see your family as much as possible and so on. But we don't necessarily think, no matter how socialist you are, that the people paying benefits into a system should have a disadvantage that the people receiving the benefit don't have to suffer, right? That they get to live where they want, but the people who necessarily have to move somewhere else to do their job don't get that advantage. Okay, then there's the idea of we still need to help people back in the home areas, back in the local areas. Yes, we do. We need to help people who really don't have a choice, right? So the people who have disabilities, or who really are living in an area where they might have a higher chance of getting a job, but just don't get that, right? No, thank you, right? What people who do potentially have a great chance of getting a job somewhere, but choose not to move there do, is fail to increase their chances of being able to pay tax that actually helps those people. So what that means is they don't really believe in the reciprocal bonds of helping other people as much as is humanly possible. So we don't see why they deserve the reciprocal bonds in return that says that they're, right? Because actually, once you spend less on paying money for people who could be employed in something else, you have more money to actually invest back in those kind of industries, to actually invest in Darlington for the people who couldn't move, no thank you, or the people who couldn't get a job. Okay, furthermore, you're saying that benefits legitimate, when it's your only option, even if they are some sort of reparation, that's a reparation for the fact that you had no choices. At the point where you do have a choice, you don't feel you have that same need for reparations. Okay, what is a rational change for them? Okay, we say generally having a job makes you happier, right? It gives you more confidence. It feels like you're sort of doing something productive with your life that's actually helping things, right? So these people, and also these areas are often nicer when there's a lot of economic development going on in those particular areas. But what makes people not move under the status quo? We're not saying they're not moving because they're poor and therefore stupid. We're saying there are things like family coercion from their family and from their friends, right? They're saying, no, why do you want to leave me here? But at the point at which they can turn back to them and say, this is my only choice, my only way I can actually survive, they're able to escape those bonds of coercion, right? Furthermore, they just have a fear of change or a particular loyalty to their area, which will change over time when they get a loyalty to the new area, because you don't just get born with associations, you make them over time, right? But they don't necessarily see that first. So this is the push they need, to make that move, so that eventually they do have a better life, but they have that push to have that life in the first place. I'll take people out and closing so I can get their extension.
Given that Britain has almost close to 10% unemployment, would you like to be the first person on your bench to actually tell us where the hell these jobs you're going to put these people into?
Yeah, so what we essentially say is when there are industries in the same area, like maybe somewhere like Stafford and London, but also places like Sheffield and so on, what you get is when they don't hire some people, that grows the industry. What you then get is a sort of multiplier effect, right? Because it's not just where every subsequent 100 people you add to that industry has a logarithmic benefit towards that particular industry. Because companies like to be in an area where there are lots of other companies, particularly when there are companies which are dependent, like FedEx likes to have lots of companies in London because then they can supply all the businesses and so on, have people moving the mail, that sort of thing, right? So what that means is it's like a big curve, saying that the more companies you have, the more people you ship in, they can hire even more and more people than necessarily that direct grant money in an undeveloped area would have provided. So what that means is we're actually using this to develop new industries and actually solve that 10% unemployment rate at a faster rate than you could have done if you just pumped that directly into a place like Darlington, right? And this idea of training as well. I think you're more likely to be trained in an area where there is already a lot of industry, where they're already trying to find workforces to grow those particular industries. Okay? So what we actually think is that even in terms of helping your own home area at home, okay, the state is more likely to be able to do that. First of all, when people don't resent people who live somewhere like Devon, where they'd like to live really, but they have to live in the city to work, when they see that the people who still remain there are really the people who have no other choice. But really, we just think there's a rational choice to move there, and it's a fair way to solve it.